Hello friends! I am so excited to officially welcome you to the laundry room. I've got big plans to transform this ordinary space into a multifunctional piece of eye candy that provides us with maximum storage for both our laundry and pantry needs. The wire shelves above the washer and dryer scream temporary, and the narrow dead space behind the door has potential to be a lot more useful and free up some space in our neighboring kitchen. We are going to tackle that area first by making some custom built-in shelves that take advantage of the full height of the room. Let me show you what we're working with before we get into this build. First things first, I want to give you a real look at this space before we start building things and ripping it all apart. So as you can see, I just walked through the door and behind me is the kitchen. So this room is right off the kitchen, which is why we're going to leverage it not only for laundry, which it's already set up for, but also for pantry, which you can kind of get a little look into behind me as I have this temporary shelving solution. Looking this way, we've got our washer dryer, some wire shelves that are filled with a variety of like laundry supplies. I store paper towels and toilet paper up in these felt bins, and then we've got some dish towels, plastic bags, jog treats, etc. So it's a mix of things, and I've done my best to kind of use cute baskets and try to tuck things away because, as we know, lots of containers and boxes and branding is just very bright and colorful. This is not doing it. I like something that doesn't burn my eyeballs, so by having these baskets we can kind of tuck those things away. But if I move you even up above that, you can see we've still got a ton of space above these bins and baskets to maximize storage space. The one other thing I will say about this side is that we've got our plumbing and some electrical here that we do need, and I'm not going to move that. We're just going to leave it there. But I'm thinking about ways we can kind of tuck that away. So we've got some storage solutions. I want to go all the way to the ceiling. I'm thinking cabinet on this side so it's closed storage and we can tuck all of the ugly things away. And then maybe on this half, some open shelves so we can put things that we easily need to access, like laundry soap, dryer balls. Maybe I can tuck a lamp in there. I don't know. But the point is, this stuff is easier to access and also more visually appealing. And then anything that we don't want to look at day to day can be tucked into the cabinet. Now on this side of the room, this is where the door opens into. So if I open the door here, you can see it covers like half the wall. But there is about an 8.5 inch gap from the edge of the door trim to the back of the wall here. And previously we used it to store just like brooms. I put the ironing board here. I used to hang a stepladder from the back of the door here, and it was a perfect space to just like hide some of that like not so pleasant looking stuff that you needed to, use regularly. But I recently found this shelf on Facebook Marketplace. You might have seen that in one of my recent thrifting, antiquing videos. And I got it so that I could move some of the pantry goods, so like dry goods, canned goods, things like that, into this space and free up that cabinet storage to move some of the smaller appliances like the air fryer, the KitchenAid, into the cabinets and free up counter space. So it was a little bit of a shuffle. But long term, I always wanted to build something custom to kind of fit this unique space and maximize the storage from floor to ceiling. I think what I want to do is build something that's maybe about, 24 to 28 inches wide. It won't be full width given the placement of the window, so I kind of want to center it on the wall so we have these two little nooks on the left and right, and we can use that space cleverly as well. I'm thinking on the right we might hang some of those baskets I thrifted to put like onions, shallots, garlic in, and then maybe on this side we can have a couple of hooks to hang a prettier broom than this. I think we can upgrade the broom. So that's what we're working with in this space. It is very small, but I think there's a lot we can do to make it more functional and also more beautiful. Laundry is one of those tasks that just never goes away, and if we have to spend a lot of time in this room, then why not make it pleasant to be in. There are a number of projects that we'll have to work on to get the space in order, but the first thing we're going to do is work on that pantry shelf build, and to do that we need materials. All right, we are off to Home Depot. First trip of the project, first of many. I should probably keep track of how many times I go here because I think it's going to be crazy. It always is. Okay, we found the right stuff.
Probably don't need 3/4 inch, but I already measured everything out that way, so that's what we're flipping doing. $84, jeez Louise.
Yeah, that's good.
Let me adjust. Not bad, not bad. Not bad at all. It's gonna be really hard with the longer ones. Okay, I need the shortest piece we can find of this. Is that straight? Check that. I literally just need like a 2-foot piece, but we'll just get like 4 of them. So this one I will get, because that one was decent.
Whenever I'm shopping for wood, I always take the time to hunt through the piles and look for the best quality pieces to make sure they're not warped or damaged or anything before I buy them. So definitely don't be shy about doing this.
All right, just checking my list here. Got it. It's a tool. I have secured the most important thing for tonight, which is our meal from Five Guys. And then I'm gonna have you hold it.
It is very moist outside today. I'm already sweating. Ugh. I foresee lots of sawdust being stuck to me. Today is pantry shelf unit building day, and today we are going to try to do something I have never done before, and that is build this entire shelving unit in one day. In the past, when I've done projects like this, I've had to take a lot of pauses and figure out how to do things along the way. But since we've built cabinets and desks and things for my office, I kind of feel like I'm a pro, or like a semi-pro. I have a lot more information and knowledge than I did before, so I do feel confident that I can achieve this build in one day. It really should be straightforward, but as we know, things often go sideways, and that could very well happen. So we're just going to see how it goes. I have sketched out a little plan here. I've tried to identify all of my measurements and cuts and where I need to, like route little notches out with the Dado blade so I can set my shelves in. I've also figured out what I need for my face frame. So I'm hoping that this little sketch, which is like sketch number 8, because I drew this a million times. Of course, I was stubborn and just kept using a pen instead of using a pencil, and my iPad was dead, so I couldn't do it on that like I normally do. So anyway, we did it this way. We did it 8 times, and now it should be perfect in theory. I've got my table saw set up. I've got my circular saw, my Kreg jig, so I can rip this piece of plywood down. I've got a whole bunch of scrap wood that I'm going to try to use up for various shelves and backings and things, so we can get through that big old pile of scrap wood that we have sitting in the barn, and we're just gonna see how this goes. Let's cut some wood, shall we? The first thing we're going to set up is my Kreg rip cut jig. So this helps me rip down long sheets of plywood that are hard to maneuver on the table saw by myself. I have a piece of that purple insulation that's like 2 inches thick underneath this so that I can cut it on the floor, and my saw blade cuts into that foam instead of into like the driveway or wherever I'm cutting. So I need to screw my circular saw into this jig, set the right width, and then I will just cut down the length of the plywood a couple of times. I'm just gonna use this jig for a rough cut. I give myself a little bit of wiggle room, and then we'll take these pieces we cut off over to the table saw to do a nice clean cut for the final measurement. Super sweaty, super dusty, but on we go. I am over by the miter saw because I'm going to do all of my shortcuts first. So we're going to cut everything to length, and then I'm going to take my big stack over to the table saw and we'll cut everything down to width. You could do it either way. I just find it easier to work with smaller pieces on the table saw. I'm more comfortable with that. So cutting them all down to length first gives me more but smaller pieces to maneuver. You might be wondering why I decided to build everything custom, and there are a few reasons. One, I love to have flexibility in design, so when you build custom, you can really do whatever you want. The second reason is that When you buy things from the store, whether it's a cabinet or a shelf, they're typically in standard sizes, so it doesn't really serve us well if we want to maximize every ounce of space that we can. And third, because I already have the tools and I'm not using any crazy fancy wood, it's actually more affordable for me to buy the raw materials than it would be to buy something pre-built, which means we can use that savings for something else.
I now have a stack, or an organized set of piles rather, of all of my lengths. So those are all perfectly cut, or as close to perfect as we can get because we know they're not perfect. And now I'm going to take everything and run it through the table saw to get it down to width. So most of these pieces, with the exception of a handful, are all of the same depth. So I'm just going to set the fence on the table saw and then run a whole bunch through. That way we can guarantee everything we cut is exactly the same depth. And that makes aligning things much easier. Okay, I took a break, I charged all the things, I had some lunch, which is a very important part of the project. Something I skip more often than not and then get hangry, so trying to be better about that. Now that we have all of our shelves and side pieces cut to length and width, we are going to swap out this table saw blade for a Dado stack. The difference between these two blades is that this is just like a fixed width blade, so it just cuts through something, whereas the Dado stack is a stack of blades that has an adjustable width, so you can add or remove parts to make it thinner or thicker. And this can route out a channel so that instead of having to do multiple passes to create a wider channel for something to sit in, like a shelf, you can just do it with one single pass. I got this when we were working on the office project and it worked out really, really well. So I figured since I have it, I might as well use it again, right? I made a little drawing here so that I can explain this better. I'm hoping you can see it okay. So we basically have this side panel here, and then we've got a series of shelves that will sit in this side panel. Now you can attach the shelves to the side panel with pocket hole screws, which I've done before. It works great. It's just a lot of wood filling and sanding afterward, and I'm trying to minimize the amount of work I have to do to prep for paint. So I thought instead we'd try this method where we use the Dado stack to cut out these little notches in the side panel, and then each of the shelves can just sit into that notch and be glued in place. And that's kind of it. Like, we don't have to fill anything, we don't have to sand anything. I might put a couple of nails in the side just to kind of like reinforce it, but wood glue is pretty strong, and these notches will give the shelf a ledge to sit on. So they're not very wide, they're less than 24 inches wide, so it's not like they have that chance of bowing. If they were longer shelves, we might have to have some sort of center support, but I think because they're short and it's 3/4 inch thick plywood, it's not like a 1/4 inch thick, it's pretty substantial material. We're gonna try this method and see how it goes. Now that we have the Dado stack installed, I've got all of the right chippers, spacers, and blades, so we've got the right thickness. We're gonna test it before we actually do it on the official pieces just to make sure. But now I need to set the height. So the height of the blade is the depth of the cut. And we don't wanna cut too far in and create notches that are too deep, because then it sacrifices the strength of that side piece. The side piece is 3/4 of an inch thick, so I'm only going to set this to 3/8, so our notch goes in about halfway, and we've still got 3/8 inches of material on the outside to kind of like keep the strength of the side panel. I use these little spacer blocks. They come in a set. I got these also when I was working on my office, and this just minimizes any guesswork. So they've got all different size blocks, and you can just find the one that you're trying to match the height of the blade to, put it up next to the blade, and then just adjust the dial here to lower the blade to the height of that block. And that way you know that your cut is going to be the right depth. I have a scrap piece of 3/4 inch plywood here. I'm just gonna move my fence in so that it's actually over the blade, and we're just gonna do a test cut to make sure it's the right depth, width, and the shelves will actually fit in that little groove we're cutting.
I'm also going to use this push block. This thing is the Gripper, GRR Ripper. I'll include a link to it. These are amazing. We have 2 of them. It was so funny. One Christmas, Matt and I both got them for each other because we had recently gotten the table saw, and yeah, you just want to, use it safely. So it was funny that we got them at the same time. But anyway, I digress. This is great to push the block through or over something, especially in this case where the blade is not going to cut all the way through the material. So this just allows you to push over the blade without your hand being there. While it's not cutting through the material, you still don't want to risk putting your hand there. You never know what could happen. So this is a nice little safety mechanism to allow you to easily get the material over the blade. So we'll test this out and see how it fits. Testing the fit, it looks like the shelf is just a little bit too thick to fit in that groove we just cut. So what I'm gonna do is unplug this, take the blade out, add another spacer, and see if we can just make that a tiny bit wider to fit the shelves snugly. I made 4 different adjustments and 4 test cuts. This is the last one, and I think we finally got something that fits. So our shelves I'm testing just to make sure that they actually slide into this little groove and fit nice and snug. And what I realized was the shelves we cut for the upper shelves, those were all part of a single board that we cut into 4 pieces. And that board was just a little bit thicker, the tiniest bit, than the board we cut for the lower shelves, which means that our Dado fit will not be consistent between the upper and lower shelves. A lot of times, or most times actually, when you purchase lumber from Home Depot or Lowe's or your local hardware store, the wood is not consistent in thickness. And it's just tiny, tiny varying little bits, but if you want them to all be consistent, you need to plane them. And I do not have a planer. So what we're gonna do is leave the cut that I just figured out for the upper shelves, and I will cut all of the grooves for that, and then I will knock off one of the spacers just to make it a little more narrow and cut the grooves for the lower shelves. And that way we have a snug fit. If you don't have a snug fit and you glue it all together and there's a little bit of gap, you have more of a risk of it separating over time. We want a nice tight fit so that when we stick all the shelves in there with glue, everything is kind of touching and the glue will adhere really nicely and hopefully secure it for forever, or until someone else rips these shelves out, because I'm not. Okay, I have relocated because A, it's hot, B, it looks like it's going to rain, which I'm very excited about, but it does not make for a good workspace, and C, I just wanted to come inside and, I don't know, watch a movie while I assemble these. So that's what we're gonna do. I've laid out plastic just in case the glue seeps out, because we don't want that on our rug or our lovely floors. And these are literally just contractor bags that I lay out, and I reuse these for all kinds of things and also actually use them as a bag, but they make for a great, like, quick plastic lay down situation. So I've got a bunch of clamps, different sizes, because I don't have a ton of each. I've got a square so we can make sure the shelves are square when we're gluing everything together. I've got paper towels for cleanup. I've got a sanding block so that I can knock down the edges if anything looks rough before I assemble things. I've got all of my cut pieces of wood, and somewhere I have a bottle of wood glue. Maybe it's in the kitchen. I gotta go grab that. In theory, this should be pretty easy to do. To assemble this, we have 3 pieces really, 2 shelf units and then a middle like shelf / countertop. I'm gonna start with the, what is this, the bottom. The bottom has less shelves, it's a little bit lower. And we're gonna take the 2 matching side pieces, we're going to mirror them, and then we're gonna slide the shelves into these little grooves that we created. I'm going to add glue to each groove, we'll clamp everything together, let it dry, and then we'll dry fit everything. The last thing we'll need to do is cut a backer board, which is going to be some extra beadboard I have, but I wanted to assemble the shelf carcasses before I actually cut that, just to make sure I have the measurements right.
First one is done, and I'm now starting the second one. But what you didn't see with the movie magic was that when I first started gluing that shelf together, I actually ripped it all apart and went outside on the table saw and actually cut this little groove in the back. And the reason I did that was because when I was putting it all together, I was like, shoot, when I put the backer on, which I'm just gonna set on the back, I want it to be inset a little bit as opposed to sticking out on the back. And I want it to be flush with the back of the shelves, which I already, thinking ahead, cut a little bit short to accommodate the space of the backer. I just didn't do that on the actual side pieces. So I had to cut a little groove. Thankfully, I was able to pull that other one apart before the glue all dried, cut the groove, and then glued it all back together, clamped it, and I nailed the sides. Now we're gonna do the same exact thing with this larger set of shelves. These will be on the top. They're a little bit more narrow, but I'm not gonna make you sit through it. It's gonna be done in 3, 2, 1. We are now in the laundry room. It is this big. It is as big as my arm width. So you're gonna have to get used to that place because there's not a lot of places I can put you. And we're gonna be doing some work on this wall first. Just a dry fit though, just a dry fit. We're not gonna keep it here. I just need to make sure everything fits. So I'm going to move this pantry shelf, the temporary shelf, out and bring the pieces we just assembled in to make sure they actually fit the way we want them. They're the right size, nothing hits the ceiling. And then if all looks good, we'll bring them out to put them in the barn and, oh wait, I need to cut the backer. We still need to cut the backer. So yeah, let's just make sure they fit here first and then we'll work on the backer. First piece coming in. Cute, cute. Now this piece is our faux countertop. It's basically just like the middle piece between the two shelf units. So that'll go there, and we'll stain that. And our last piece here. Okay, a moment of truth. Oh my god, yay! You can only see like half of it. Oh boy, it's gonna be tricky to film in here. Okay, well, I will tell you that it fits, so that's good. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, I totally forgot. So the shelf we have here today, the temporary shelf, when you open the door, we have this little black latch on the back. You can't quite see it, but it's just this little like hook, and it hits one of the shelves on this current shelving unit. So when I was like planning to build a new one, I was like, I have to remember that I need to space the shelves accordingly so that that little latch does not get stuck on the shelf and just fits between the shelves. But of course, I totally forgot about that and didn't measure that at all. But thankfully, the universe is on our side and it fits. Yay! Yay! I'm so excited. This is gonna be cute. I honestly probably could have kept it the same width. Let me see if I can get you a different angle here. Let's see what I can do. I just remembered I actually have this little like fisheye lens for this camera, so I'm gonna see if that helps us out in here. Okay, back in the tiny space. I'm trying to push the camera back as far as I can. So that's the upper part. So like from that top, it looks like a shelf, but it's actually not a shelf. That's just the top. From there up is gonna be covered with trim and crown molding. And then down here, you can see we've got this like sort of faux countertop. Like I designed it as though it was a countertop and there was like an upper and lower shelf unit, but obviously we don't have a lot of depth. So I just made it like a 1/2 inch deeper than the cabinets. The frame itself, like around the edges and then down here as well around the outside edges, that's gonna have face frame on it. So it'll be 3/4 of an inch thicker, but the shelves are like at depth. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. Wow. It did take all day, but oh my gosh, my goal is almost complete. We need to cut the backer and get that installed so that I can actually say that I completed this today. forgot, I have one more piece to install. This is the top brace for the lower set of shelves. This is going to be screwed in place at the very top between the left and right side panels, and I'm actually going to use pocket holes for this. So I've got my Craig pocket hole system out here so that I can drill the holes on both sides. The reason I'm using pocket hole screws for this piece is because this top is going to be concealed by that countertop and you'll never see them, so I don't have to cover them up or fill them or sand them. I can just leave them there and then screw the countertop on top of this in place, and that makes our lives easy. I am 50% sawdust, 50% human, but we only have a few more pieces of wood to cut. And of course, I got all excited and was like, we're almost done, but we're not. We still have to do the face frame, duh. But I don't have that many pieces to cut because some of the shelves I used poplar for so that I did not have to add face frame or any edge banding to them. And they'll be inset a little bit, which will be cute. But I do need to cut face frame for all of the raw edges of plywood. So that's basically the side panels and then the tops and bottoms, not the middle pieces. So I've got 1x2 poplar here somewhere, and I just need to measure and cut. A finer craftsman than I would assemble all the face frame in one piece and then just nail the whole shebang on. However, I do not, like, my measurements are not perfect. They're definitely not. So it's in my best interest to just cut and install each piece individually. So I'm going to start with the side pieces, the up and downs, the verticals, if you will, and then I'm going to measure in between because I think the top piece and the bottom piece might be slightly different measurements, and that way we can get them nice and snug. So we are going to work on getting the face frame installed, and then I'm going to do another dry fit just so I can see it all in its glory in its semi-final position. Okay, it is time. We are bringing everything in. The face frame is installed. The backboard is installed. They are officially finished except for paint, which is not going to happen for a while. So we're calling them finished. So let's see how they look. So cool. I got to put your little lens on so you can see more. Want to see? What do you think?
Pretty great.
So we'll put like a curtain down here. We can put like a basket here, and then I'll cut the baseboard out so we can slide it back so it's like flush up against the wall. This actually fits right.
Nice work, huh?
Okay, let me take you off here so I can see if you can see further back. Can you see? So the top gap there will be covered with crown molding, so that's not a biggie. And then obviously everything will be assembled together. We'll screw everything down. For now, I'm going to take it out of here so we can still kind of use this space. I'm trying not to disrupt the space until I absolutely have to. And this we still need to like sand and wood fill, prime, and paint before we even bring it back in here. And then I still need to build the cabinet and shelves for the opposite side here over the washer and dryer. So step one of, 48 is done, which is great, feels awesome. And now we can move on to the next part of the project. All right, I have put the room back together for now, just to keep things tidy and organized while we continue working on the rest of the parts we need to build.
I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I've included as many links as I can in the description below, but if I missed something or you have any questions, definitely let me know, and let me know what you think about the progress so far in the comments. The next thing I'm going to be tackling is the cabinet and floating shelves above the washer and dryer. So I just have to finish working on my sketch and marking down all of my measurements so we can kind of go through the same process we did for the pantry shelf. And I'm also still kind of deciding on like what style doors I want, how big I want the shelves to be, how many shelves I want, so kind of working through that a little bit, but I will share the full process with you in the next video. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, click the bell notification so you don't miss out on what's next, and share it with a friend if you think it's something they would like, and I will catch up with you in the next video.